Welcome to the Envelopes Emmy Contender Series. I'm Yvonne Villarreal. Each episode will talk with actors behind some of your favorite TV performances this season. On today's episode, we're talking to Sam Heughan, who plays Jamie Fraser in the TV series Outlander. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're launching this season off for us. You're our first guest. No pressure.
I'm the first guest. Oh, well, you know, start at the bottom and work your way up. So.
Well, thanks for joining us.
No, thank you for having me.
I want to start off by acknowledging that a lot of the fans and viewers were a little, I don't know if upset is the word, or shocked that you and Katrina are not doing this interview together. Can you just reassure them that nothing is wrong? It's just a scheduling thing.
No, we've now got to season 4 we're shooting, and we don't speak to each other anymore. We have separate trailers, with separate sets, and they CGI us in together. It's fame for you.
What set it off?
She was just getting outrageous, stealing all my snacks and my blanket. We are together, and we do work together, and things are pretty good. She's just very busy.
Very busy. As are you.
As am I.
Well, season 3 kicked off with Jamie and Claire 200 years apart.
Yes.
Jamie sent her on her way to the future with a baby in her belly, and he was sort of resolute in sort of dying by his men in the battlefield. Yeah. Talk about entering that sort of mindset of defeat and acceptance of that. Like, you were ready to just have it be done. He
obviously sends Claire and his unborn child away to be safe, and he knows that history is told that this battle, you know, the Scots are going to be wiped out. So he goes to die, and actually, when we were approaching it with the director, you know, it wasn't a great sadness. Actually, it's like he's actually in control here, and he knows his wife and child will be safe, and so he goes to commit suicide, really, and there's a kind of a release in that. And then on the battlefield, he sees his arch enemy, Blackjack Randall, which is actually for him kind of full circle, and he gets the opportunity to sort of take him with him, that he believes, you know, he's going to die, and actually wakes up on the battlefield and has survived. And Jamie, from that point on, really struggles to find a purpose to live, and does not want to be Jamie Fraser anymore. And certainly, you know, the loss of his wife and his child really affects him, and he goes through a real process to eventually find sort of acceptance and then something to live for again.
What was it like shooting that battle? There was a moment where Tobias reaches out to you. Was that in the script, or was that not in the script?
Yeah, that's a really special moment, and I think if you listen closely, I believe he says Claire. I think we wanted it to be this strange embrace, like, not that they love each other, but there's been this, the two characters kind of complement each other in some weird way. There's been this strange bond between them, obviously from season 1 and what happened there. So so they sort of die in this strange embrace, and it's full circle, and a new chapter for Jamie as well. But it's big, you know. We say goodbye to some characters that we love, you know, or hate, Blackjack Randall, of course, but also the Scottish actors, a lot of the clansmen, and it's very sad, you know. And as Jamie's lying, sort of dying, or barely living on the battlefield, and he has to say goodbye to all these different characters that we love, especially Rupert. You know, there's a great sadness to that, and I think we all felt it. You know, that battle is very big in our culture. We're very aware of what happened, and so it was a great honor to be able to sort of portray it on camera.
What are the challenges of shooting something like that? I mean, there's hundreds of extras on set, and there's a lot of choreography, but also keeping in mind the story you're having to tell, just in like your facial expressions or how intensely you approach it. What is the challenge of that?
It was a beautifully written script, actually, and had some really strange moments. But there's obviously the battle, which felt like being in an episode like Dunkirk or in Saving Private Ryan. I mean, they were throwing, like, you know, bombs at us, and things were exploding, and it's pretty terrifying. You know, there's sort of hundreds of people running each other with sharp swords and stuff. So, but we wanted it to be dirty and kind of chaotic. And but then after that, as Jamie, I felt like he's going towards death. You know, he's coming out of his body, and he starts seeing things on the battlefield. He has these memories of Claire, and actually eventually sees her. And as the snow comes down, I feel like there's a point where he's literally on the edge of dying, and there's something about the stars, but he's sort of saved by Rupert and sort of brought back to life. And it was a really nice sort of transition. But yeah, he then struggled. You know, he really did not want to survive, and it takes him, you know, about 4 or 5 episodes and many years, which we cover, for him to finally come to terms with sort of the loss of the woman he loves.
Well, you spend much of that first episode lying on your back. Is that a nice change of pace?
Yeah.
Before things get real crazy?
It is, actually. It's funny because, you know, when you really have to sort of become very still, and actually found my whole body like sort of slowing down, and my hands were getting cold, and, you know, you're there for hours. And but it's yeah, it was interesting because it's also, how do you, he's, you know, kind of mortally wounded. How do you also not let that take over, and you still have to be able to, he has to be aware of what's going on around him, and he has to feel the loss of Rupert and his other clansmen, and the loss of Claire, without being overcome with just pain and doing sort of injured acting.
Right, right.
So yeah, there's a bit of a challenge there, but again, you know, it was a great script, and then Jamie, yeah, he's sort of brought back to life and goes back to Lallybroch.
We'll talk about, we see in the first 5 episodes, it sort of tracks how Jamie and Claire lived their life apart for those 20 years. Sort of how did you make of what Jamie's journey was during that time, and did you model it after anything? Yeah,
it's, you know, the sort of different stages of grief, really, you know, and he goes through, you know, sort of anger and sadness and sort of eventually all the way through to acceptance. But, you know, each episode was so strong, and he's such a different character. You know, he actually assumes different names each episode. He really is. In the second episode, he's sort of living feral, and he's just sort of completely shut off to his emotions. He can barely speak. We actually looked at the script in that and really cut out a lot of his dialogue. So he really is kind of monosyllabic and just a shell. And then he finds a purpose to live, and that's to at least to sacrifice himself for his extended family. But he's still living in the memory of Claire and living in the shadows. And then when he's in prison, he's kind of happy to be there. You know, he sort of confines himself, almost sends himself off to prison to sort of live out his days in the memory of her, and even goes on this fool's errand, believing that she may still be alive. But that's really the turning point, and the turning point when we meet John Gray as well, where Jamie starts to realize that there may be something else to live for.
How was it playing Wild Jamie?
Wild Jamie, yeah, the Dunbonnet was, you know, a lot of facial hair, a lot of wigs. But actually, no, it was probably the toughest episode, because he's so sort of catatonic in his grief, and it's so on the surface that, you know, there's even a point where he feels responsible. His actions every time that you see him return to Lallybroch at one point, and he hears a baby scream, and I feel like just anything that happens, he feels responsible for it. He's brought this badness to Lallybroch. He brings the redcoats there. He's responsible for the demise of the Scots. He didn't protect his men, so he feels very responsible, and it's pretty sad. And when he does find a moment of comfort in a local lady that comes to him seeking comfort as well, it's kind of it's really sad. You know, they're sort of both looking for just, I don't know, human contact.
What were your tweet mentions like when you had that moment of comfort with someone other than Claire?
Yeah, well, I expected, you know, people to, you know, the diehard fans to be like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" But I think, you know, you're following the story, you realize, you know, he's completely alone, and actually, you know, he's trying to conjure up Claire in front of him, and there are a lot of similarities. You know, he closes his eyes, and I mean, he's trying to recall her, and I feel like throughout the whole next episode as well, in Ardesmuir Prison, he's he speaks to her a lot, you know. She's there for him, present in his memories, and so that's why he's happy to just survive in this sort of half state.
Well, and another side we see of Jamie in season 3 is the fatherly side. Yeah. Obviously, he can't be there to watch Brianna grow up, but he's had a son, William, and we later in the season learn that he's been the stepfather of some girls. So talk about exploring that side of him and how that dimension sort of, you know, helped you with this character in season 3.
Yeah, it's a side to Jamie that we see a lot more in season 3, and 4 is really a culmination of that. But he's always wanted to be a father figure, and you know, he always wanted to be the laird and have this great family, and he's never had the chance to. So it's really affected him. I mean, he lost Faith as well, their daughter in France. So he's never had the chance to be a father, and obviously with Willie, he also it can't be sort of common knowledge that he's this illegitimate son. So he has to be a father from afar. And it's something he yearns for. But those scenes were great. You know, he finds a little bit of peace and happiness, even though he's a servant and you know, a sort of a Jacobite. You know, so he could be locked up again. But he's yeah, he has a little bit of joy in caring for his son.
Did it lighten the mood on the set too, like when the cameras weren't rolling?
I felt I could breathe again. Yeah, like that episode was just, you know, in Hellwater. I know, it felt like spring, you know, like he's gone through the winter and he's now able to breathe again and to find a little bit of joy. But then he ultimately, he has to leave Willie behind, and he carries Willie with him, and we see later on we might see Willie at some other point.
Well, I don't want to ignore the fans who have sent in a lot of questions, and I'm going to apologize now because I know we won't get through all of them because there was a lot.
Great.
A fan from Twitter asked, what was the funniest thing that happened on set while filming?
This is a really tough question. We get it a lot, and honestly, funny things do happen. We can just never remember, so I apologize. It's normally Katrina. I mean, we were shooting 2 days ago, and I can't give away too much, but there was a scene with an actor who we both love dearly, who's very funny, and she just turns around and blatantly laughs while the camera's rolling, and it's every time. But yes, I wish I could remember something really funny. It's just
it's all a blur.
It's all a blur, but she's a great corpser.
We have another fan from Twitter asking, if you could send the Frasers anywhere in the world for their honeymoon, where would it be?
Oh, let's send them somewhere nice, shall we? They've had a pretty bad time, you know, like shipwrecked. I mean, they were in the Caribbean. It sounds great, but really, there's like crocodiles and there's weird voodoo stuff and all kinds of things. So, yeah, let's somewhere nice, peaceful, where there's no danger.
Where's that?
I don't know, like an igloo somewhere. I don't know.
An igloo. Yeah. I like that.
Those polar bears. That's a problem.
Gretchen from Facebook asks, who is your favorite Outlander character besides Jamie and Claire?
Oh, hi, Gretchen. There's been so many. I mean, I have to say at the moment, I'm loving David Berry as Lord John Grey. He's an incredible actor, and the character's so interesting. Hopefully they're going to do the spin-off series, and then I can get another job on the side. But yeah, working with David's amazing, and that relationship between Jamie and Lord John Grey is really interesting, and there's a great friendship there, a great bond, but also, you know, it's always moving, this relationship.
Mary or Madi from Twitter asked, if you had a chance to play any villain, what characters would you like to play and why?
Any villain?
Any villain.
Oh, I guess maybe like something, maybe some evil comic book would be quite good. Wow.
Any in mind?
Yeah. Any in mind? I don't know. Have they all been made now? I'm not sure.
I feel like
some comic book villain would be pretty awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the villain's always the best parts
to
play, aren't they? Or something, something historical maybe, like Second World War. I've always wanted to do something in that period.
How was it in season 3, 20 years past? Talk about the aging process.
We've not been working for 20 years.
No, not been working for 20 years on the show. But what was the process like to age you up? The little things that maybe we don't even notice.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a lot. Yeah, I mean, I'm in sort of the makeup chair for a good hour and a half. It's just very subtle, and we really have to. We had a lot of tests about it. You know, we've slowly aging him. We don't want to go too far, obviously, because if we do get further seasons, you know, we need to go further with that. But there's a lot of eye makeup, a lot of lines, which of course I don't have, and no, there's a lot of weathering. I get. It's called Sprackled, and my makeup artist, she's incredible, but she gets sprackle happy, I like to call it. She just covers me. And then there's some small prosthetic brow razors. There's a bit of graying in the hair as well. So yeah, there's quite a bit, but it is, as I say, very very subtle. But yeah, I think it's interesting, and who knows? Maybe we'll get to the point where I've got a big white beard. Did
that affect how you played him at all? Like,
I think, you know, we have to. Yeah, well,
he has the little glasses too.
He does have glasses. Eyesight is going a bit short-sighted anyway, and but yeah, I mean, I think his energy is more grounded, and I think, you know, he's less tempestuous. He's less, you know, in season 1 he would at the drop of a drop of a hat he would sort of fly off the handle, but he's definitely a bit more grown up now. Though, you know, he's still Jamie Fraser, so there's times when he's just
right.
Yeah.
Well, this season, you know, fans were waiting for when the two are reunited, and they have obviously a moment of intimacy, and that first moment, it's quite a lead up, right? I mean, I don't know how many pages there were of text before you guys get to the nitty gritty of it all, but it's like,
oh, that's what you're talking about. I see.
The undressing. It takes a while. There's a lot of layers to take off.
Yes.
What was it like filming that scene? It's in the brothel where Jamie is now living. It's a small room. How many people were in that room when it was happening?
Yeah, it is a small room, and extremely hot. And there's probably, I mean, I don't know, 15 people in that room at the same time. But yeah, we wanted, there's like, you know, the joy of seeing this person that you haven't seen for many years, and the person you love, and you know, things dead, and they come back in your life, and so there's the initial joy, and you know, I think they've both put each other on a pedestal, and kind of held a candle for each other. But the reality is, when it comes down to it, actually, they're two different people now. They've aged, they've had different experiences, so that's why we wanted there to be this kind of awkwardness as well. So there's a callback to season 1 and the wedding episode. So there's the untying and the undressing, but there's slight, you know, the bumping of the heads and all that stuff. It's just,
and she like covers herself.
She covers herself. Yeah, you know, yeah, they're not infallible. They're two adults that have grown up without the other person, and actually there's a lot at stake here as well.
How has playing this role or playing this romance affected your romantic life? Like, are you now held on this pedestal, or are girls like
not,
saying?
I hope so. I should be.
Is it like, well, Jamie would never do that to Claire? Like, do you get any of that, or do you feel any of it internally?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I certainly know that our fans are very invested, and you know, at times, you know, they have certainly. I'm like, he's not Jamie. What are you doing? I know you cut your hair, but.
But I feel like you would have to tell your girlfriend not to watch this show.
Yeah.
Because you don't want her getting ideas of how you should be acting.
It's more my mom I need to be worried about. To
your
be
mom?
Honest. Yeah, she sets a very high standard. I don't want her to watch it, to be honest. She keeps asking me for the DVDs. I'm like, I don't think I have them. Oh.
How long can you get away with that?
I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, she's beginning to realize now, I think, that something's going on. So, yeah. Maybe I'll leave them and leave the country. Give her them and go somewhere.
I'm curious, like, you mastered the art of the longing stare really well. Like, you've perfected it.
I have the longing stare?
Like, looking longingly at Claire.
Claire, or anything I want to eat or something?
What I was going to ask, what are you thinking about in those moments? Because it's so good.
I'm just waiting for her to stop talking, to be honest. The longing... Well, no, I think that, yeah, there's, you know, that first time in Ep 1, the pilot, you know, where he sees her, and I think in the book, you know, it's obvious, you know, he he falls for her, and I think he still, you know, still she catches his breath a lot, and so I try to find those moments. And actually, in a weird way, you know, I think in her he sees his death, kind of. I don't know. There's something. Yeah, that actually is kind of scary in her, and so I try and find those points, if that makes any sense.
I feel like you should teach our camera guys how to do it, because they both have women in their lives that I'm sure would want to see that look.
Okay, gentlemen. So,
how do you do it?
Yeah, just when just think of, like, I don't know, think of what you're gonna have for dinner, and then some guacamole, and some chips, and margarita.
There it is.
Thank you.
Let's get more questions. Lucy from Twitter asks, are you more of a night owl or an early bird?
I'm probably more of an early bird. I mean, I certainly like to get up early if I can. I mean, we're always moving around, and certainly since I've got here, it's been, I think, a bit of both. But yeah, I probably prefer the morning.
Liz from Facebook asks, in which ways are you like Jamie?
In which ways am I like Jamie? Probably stubborn, pretty stubborn, and Scottish, and yeah. I mean, yeah, he's probably more intelligent than I am. I think he's a bit more intelligent, and he's very forward-thinking. So I don't know. You always have to bring yourself to the character, and there are times when you read something and you go, "Why is he doing that? What an idiot!" And other times you're like, "Oh yeah, cool." So. But it's actually the times when you're like, why does he do that? And you sort of go back to the writers or whatever, and actually then in playing it, sometimes you find it. You know, you're like, I don't feel this is right. But then when you actually just get out of the way, stop making assumptions about something and just do it, you learn a lot about the character.
Were there any moments from the book that didn't make it into season 3, but helped you with the character nonetheless?
Yeah, there's always stuff in the books that are really helpful, and Diana Gabaldon, obviously, she is a great help. We talk quite a bit, sort of privately. She'll give me some insights or just things I'm asking or questions and stuff. And also, she also gives me her criticism of certain scenes.
Like what?
Wow. No, it's just funny, like, because she watches everything, which is great. But sometimes, you forget the camera's rolling before and after takes, and maybe we're messing around or whatever, and then she'll comment on something, and she's heard, and you're like, oh God, she heard. She knows everything. She's omnipotent. But she's wonderful. Yeah.
I read somewhere that she's written a scene about Jamie traveling in time that only you've seen. Is this true?
I mean, I couldn't possibly say if he was traveling time, but what I would say is that she's the Highlander in episode 1 that Frank sees. Well, Meryl said it yesterday, but yes, that's Jamie.
Okay.
But Diana has shown myself, and I think Meryl and maybe a couple other people's the last chapter or so of the last book.
Okay.
Or maybe not.
How about in the 3rd season, we obviously see that Jamie has spent some of his time becoming a printer. And you actually had to learn that process, right?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, it was great because obviously, we spent 5 episodes with him or so, and then we sort of lose him while we go to Claire's story. And then when we come back, he's established himself. He's sort of rebuilt his life. He's now living under another name, Alexander Malcolm, and he's a printer. And he's also on the side, doing a bit of smuggling. He's really got things going on. He's got fingers in pies, so to speak. But so it was wonderful to sort of create this life. And we had this amazing set by Gary Steele, and to walk onto that, he gives you so much. There's so much detail. But it was wonderful to sort of work out what Jamie's daily routine is, when he goes to work and he goes into the shop and gets the presses ready. And yeah, I had some training in how to use the press, and actually felt very confident. So they just shot me printing some stuff one day, and that's all the title cards for that episode. But it's good. It's interesting to see who he's become now, and he's sort of he's a bit of all the characters he's been. You know, he's still Jamie Fraser, but you know, he's a smuggler, and he has many different sides going on, and he's had a life. You know, he's living in a brothel. There are other relationships there, or hints of them, but it makes the moment when Claire does come back into his life even bigger. That she really, yet again, you know, throws his life upside down.
Well, we end the season with them sort of washing onto the shores of the colonies.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about what we can expect in season 4 in terms of seeing them as sort of immigrants or pioneers?
Yeah. So the end of season 3, obviously, you know, they're washed up in Georgia, and washed up is an unfortunate term. Yeah, but you know, so they're obviously in season 4 we're shooting at the moment, but they are in America, and you know, we're dealing with America, the beginning of America, you know. And what's been really interesting is to see that it is a land built on immigrants and immigration, and we have this real melting pot of cultures, and how each culture is incorporated into each other, and there are similarities between the Scots and the Native Americans, the Indians there. Like, they have a similar kind of history in the fact that they're displaced by the British, always the British. But yeah, no, it's interesting to see this interaction, and you know, it was really interesting to sort of read about the trade between the different cultures, and how many Scots were actually in America, North Carolina in particular, and yeah, so we're showing America, and they're establishing themselves, and actually, really, that's what Jamie's trying to do in season 4. He's trying to help sculpt this country so it's a better place for his daughter Brianna in the future.
Well, we're going to ask a couple more questions before going into our lightning round.
Oh God, lightning rounds.
Lightning round, okay.
Yeah.
Get
Right,
your
I'm
mind
ready.
in that headspace. But
ready.
first, Faye from Twitter asks, do you have any musical talents? How would you feel about Outlander the musical?
Outlander the music. I believe there was, you know, a work in progress. We do like to sing on set sometimes. Katrina is a big singer on set. Do I have musical talents? I used to play the trumpet and trombone. I haven't picked those up for a while.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we should get the band back together.
Okay. Okay, lightning round.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
Get ready.
All right.
First thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Last show you binge watched.
Clear Eye for the Straight Guy. Yes. Oh, it's so good.
If you could go back and be on any classic show, what would it be?
Go and be in any classic
Yeah.
show? I'd go back and be in any classic show. I mean, I don't know, Sopranos.
Okay. What do you know now that you wish you knew on your first acting job?
Less is more.
I don't know if you know this show, so I apologize.
Okay,
Which
cool.
Golden Girls character do you most identify with?
Oh, all of them. Yeah. Yeah. What's the choice? I'm sorry, I haven't seen Golden Girls, but I will go and binge watch it now.
What's next on your binge list as you head back to shooting?
I'm a big documentary fan. I love all of those, and so yes, I've been binging a few of them.
Okay.
Love documentaries or sport-related ones as well.
Okay.
School of Hard Knocks, big fan. Last Chance U, all those sort of things. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, thank you for being our first guest to kick off this season.
Yes.
Wasn't that bad, right?
It was fine, yeah. The quick fire, I'm pleased there was only a couple. So thank you.
Well, and to all of you, thanks for watching. If you want to check out more of our Emmy contender chats, head over to latimes.com. And we've got Katrina coming up in a few, so stay tuned.